Thanks for watching last week. This week I have a bit more artistic licence than last week. I don't have to do the review for a school for 11 to 16-year-old kids. The press and media didn't fancy it much last week, instead preferring to regurgitate the story of the Premier League footballers and how greedy they and their chairmen are. A story we all knew already existed. It was that or features on All City's 50 greatest throw-ins or 50 best signings, but they had to stop at 25 due to a shortage of candidates. Well, this whilst grassroots football gets left to fend for itself. But grateful thanks to Sport England who have offered my club a generous grant. Going back to the modern professional sport, I've been sending messages to two well-known ex-professional cricketers to see if they could make an appearance at a function we want to hold in Bridlington to celebrate the 200th anniversary of Bridlington Town Cricket Club. What an achievement that is, but I have not even received any formal reply. So I want to go back to a golden era of sport when professional sportsmen were a real part of the local community. I remember Chris Chilton, the Old City legend from the 60s and 70s, coming and coaching the amateur team that I was playing for called Hull Nomads. And all Chris wanted in return was a bar meal and a couple of pints in the Arwing pub on Willoughby Road after the session, which we did at Hull Brewery Sports Ground on Springhead Lane. This brings me on to the latest book I want to review, which is about a similar character to Chris, who was a professional rugby league player, but he was only part-time, needed a daytime job as well to supplement his income, but would always be available to the local community. The book is called The True Professional, The Clive Sullivan Story by author James Oddie. Note the book cover says limited edition cover. I think this version is for the LFC fans, and there is another version for the Old Kingston Rovers fans. There's not many local sportsmen have that on there, and for that reason I've got my LFC tie on today rather than my Bridtown one. One of the main achievements Clive is remembered for is being captain of the Great Britain Rugby League team who won the 1972 World Cup, and just got a reading regarding that esteemed position that he took. This is a reading from the early part of the book. Off the field, he was quiet, even shy, according to those who knew him. A gentleman, he was well liked and respected by his own fans and teammates at Hull FC and the fans and players of the opposition. That gentle nature fled him as he stepped out onto the park. A ruthlessness came over him that matched even that of the Australians. He was also a black Briton, the first to skipper a British sports team. England's soccer team would have to wait another 23 years until Paul Ince donned the armband, while the Welsh rugby union team would not even pick a black Briton until 1986 when winger Glenn Webb was selected. Yet such was Sullivan's standing in the sport that his selection for captain garnered very little comment either in or out of the rugby league bubble. While the 1970s had certainly seen some progression in terms of race relations around the world, it was also the decade of sitcoms like Love Thy Neighbour, in which a working class white man comes to terms with having a black neighbour. Even more sinister, the 1970s saw the rise of neo-fascist National Front, also headquartered in Hull, which exploited racial tensions across the country. Even as a man born and bred in Wales, Sullivan still represented a break in aesthetic from the typical captain. In the final of that 1972 World Cup, Clive scored what has been called one of the most thrilling, timely and fondly remembered tries in the history of the national team, and is described in the book, which I will read. With Australia leading 5-2, it was a major turning point, but the Australians still hammered the British line. The ball worked its way across the line to O'Reilly, half tackled by Nicholas. O'Reilly attempted to offload the ball. Instead, it slipped forward out of his grasp and bobbled into the waiting hands of Sullivan on his own 15-metre line. Sullivan picked up the ball on the run, showing his superb hands, and ran hard, seemingly straight at the Australian players, attempting to quickly regroup. The crowd, already fans of Sullivan and aware of what he could do, rose to their feet. "Can he go?" asked Eddie Waring, the commentator. Suddenly Sullivan sidestepped smoothly around opposition winger John Grant. Sullivan did not miss a step, but Grant slipped in his attempt to match the change of direction. Sullivan was now in the clear down the wing. "I think Sullivan will go," everyone shouting. "Go, go, go," Waring announced, and the crowd began to roar with Sullivan's advance. Some of the Aussies almost kept up, including O'Neill, as Sullivan ate up the metres. Just as O'Neill bore down upon him, Sullivan pulled away. The sun hung low enough in the winter afternoon for the flash bulbs of the pitch-side photographers to visibly pop as Britain crossed the try-line. Then Sullivan turned to hug huge prop David Jeans, who was in support. And this success in the World Cup was acknowledged by making an unusual appearance on the television show This Is Your Life at a fairly young age. That victory was Great Britain's last major honour in the 13-side rugby code. That success also led to LFC director who wrote a biography of Clive in 1972 titled The Hard Road to the Top, written by Joe Laters, which I have a copy of it somewhere, but I'm not quite sure where it is. Clive was born in a working class district of Cardiff in 1943. His speed of running soon became noticed when, at 5.5 years old, he won the sprint race at the local Wick Festival Carnival in Cardiff. He started playing rugby union and was captain of the school team at 11 years of age. He suffered a serious leg injury in his early teens and was told he was unlikely to ever to walk again unaided, let alone play sport. But Clive being Clive, his determination meant he fought back to fitness to continue playing his sport. He then went on to enlist in the army and was stationed at Catterick to train as a paratrooper and played for the Army Rugby Union team. He was then offered a trial in Bradford Northern's A team. Did not get much of a chance to get on the ball and was told at the end of the game, "Come back when you learn how to play rugby, son." How wrong was that assessment by whoever told him that? On the recommendation of a local touch judge who was at that game, called Jimmy Harker, he saw his potential and informed Hull FC about his potential. He was then offered a trial at Hull FC and making his debut for the first team versus Bramley at the Boulevard in December 1961. He was helped by his soon-to-be good friend Terry Devonshire, and I'll just go on to what it says in the book about his debut, and this is more or less what Terry Devonshire had said about him. He did have one opportunity to train with the side before that fateful afternoon, as Devonshire recalls. I was a bit nippy then, and I was an off-half, but I was playing particularly on the wing at that time. They told me I'd been dropped for this trialist. They were trying to show him some moves, and he couldn't get it right. Roy Francis, the coach, said, "Terry, show him how to do it." So I did a few times without fail, and Clive would drop the ball. I was thinking, he's useless him. Despite the performance in training, Clive was still picked, and it was decided that Whiteley would be moved over to left centre to support him, although one of the best loose forwards ever. Whiteley had also been a quality centre, spending part of the 1951-52 season in that role. Whiteley still remembers Sullivan's debut well to this day. He actually scored a hat-trick of tries in that debut game in a 29-9 win and signed the contract for LFC the following day. He was still fitting in playing with serving in the army. In October 1963, unfortunately, he was seriously injured in a car crash with some army colleagues, but recovered, and in 1964 the FC club paid to get him out of his army contract. Clive then met Roslyn in the Duke of Cumberland in North Ferriby, and they courted for some while and were later married in 1967 and had 2 children, Lisa and Anthony, who became a very successful player in his own right, and Lisa taking a career in nursing. Clive was then working at Orca Sidley at the Brough site. The game in the 60s was very physical, and there's quite an interesting piece in the book regarding the physicality. I'll just go on to page 67. Alan McGlow, who was the hooker for Hull FC, who was a bit of a tough guy himself, said it was a war of attrition, it was brutal. The rules allowed that. Being a hooker, it was 6 forwards against me, throwing stiff arms or grabbing hands full of mud and putting it in your eyes. It was always tit for tat. I'd drop them, letting them know they couldn't get away with it. Off the field, I didn't have a bad bone in my body, but on the pitch, I was a different person. I had 6 people going to any methods to stop me getting the ball and trying to do it without the referee seeing it. I got sent off 7 times in my career. It sounds a bit like my career. Boulevard, with its intimidating, threatening stand, provided a crucial weapon against the opposition teams. You'd be playing and the threatening stand would tell you who'd give you a clout, remembers Terry Devonshire, who had flourished in the left centre spot, placing him near the touchline and the stands. And he said, I got it hard once. I got up, shook my head. I had to show them I could take it. And I heard them shout, "Number 4, Terry, number 4. I looked at him and he was about 6'3". And I said, "Are you sure it wasn't number 5?" Which, funny anecdotes that you get in sport. Clive was selected for Great Britain, scoring 2 tries on his debut against France in 1967. He was always willing to attend presentations and charity events for the public, particularly on a Saturday night. After they'd played the games then on a Saturday afternoon, who represented Great Britain in 1968 World Cup and was a joint try scorer with 4 tries. But in 1969 he handed in a transfer request to move from Hull FC, but over contractual problems he didn't actually move at that time. He was in the squad that won the Ashes series with a famous win in Australia in 1970, which forms part of other books actually. A period of upheaval followed in the boardroom at FC, and Johnny Whiteley resigned as coach due to the interference by the board. He joined Hull KR, but the practice at the time was that the board at most clubs, even in football I believe this happened, selected the team for match days. Can you believe that nowadays? It's unbelievable. The committee of old farts picking the team. And Johnny Whiteley quoted about his time, I think it was at Hull KR. We'd all pick the selection on a Tuesday. We'd sit round after training. The chairman would say, "Right, any nominees for fullback on Saturday? You'd nominate your lad," and the directors would nominate theirs. I'd say Smith, they'd say Brown, but of course they'd had a sneaky meeting beforehand, so Smith's got no chance. I'd get outvoted, but I saw through that and I blew my top and said, "I'm not having this," and walked away. He actually left Kingston Rovers over that issue, but said it was for personal reasons. In 1971, Clive wanted away from Hull FC after a very poor testimonial year, which had been poorly organised for him as a player by the club. 31 years old, he joined Hull KR for 2,500 transfer fee, small amount. Rovers won the Yorkshire Cup final against Wakefield and were promoted back to the First Division. They then won the BBC Floodwick Trophy against St Helens in 1977 with Clive in the team. He also scored his 100th try for Hull KR in that period in 1977, having already scored 100 tries for Hull FC. I think he's the only person to have done that. 1978-79 season, KR won the First Division for the first time in 47 years. Clive, now 36, had been a crucial cog in that team. Just go to page 176. There we go. And Clive said at the time, how could it get any better for Clive? At the age of 36, could he ever top it? The resurgence of Hull FC, who would gain promotion in superlative fashion by winning every league game, suggested their wilderness years were also over. Could FC challenge KR the following season? Could FC even surpass them? Yet, as so often the case in the career of Clive Sullivan, one had to expect the story to take yet another dramatic turn. This time, however, it would be for the better and not for the worse. Next was the BBC Floodlit Trophy against Hull FC at the Boulevard, which, thanks to the performance of FC Steve Dennison, whose son Lewis is now a stalwart at Bridlington Town FC. Sorry, Bridlington Town Football Club. FC won that game 13-3 against Rovers. Then Clive had wanted for a long time to get to a Wembley Challenge Cup final. Ironically, Rovers got through to play Hull FC in the very famous 1980 Challenge Cup final. Just go to page 186, I think it is. Yeah. Clive spoke openly and honestly in the run-up to the game, remarking, "These regular injuries at the start of my career took me to the edge of despair, which can only be matched by the heights of joy I have experienced in both my rugby and my marriage. Many times I lay in a hospital bed and thought, that's it. The credit for my new burst of determination must go to a great extent to my wife, Rosa." And then on page 190, here we go. This is the sort of build-up before the game, which is chronicled here in the book for the 1980 final. Community singing, as it was rather charmingly referred to, was led by the rather idiosyncratic choice of Windsor Davis and Melvin Ayres of the sitcom It Ain't Half Hot Mamas kick-off approach. I remember that programme, it was quite funny. The pair, not vocalists by even the loosest of terms, helped hype up the crowd with their renditions of Congratulations, The Happy Wanderer, Sailing, John Brown's Body, You'll Never Walk Alone, When the Saints Go Marching In, and of course the Rugby League hymn, Abide With Me. Interspersed with those were the club songs Old Faithful and When the Red Red Robbie. In the changing rooms, however, the mood was a far cry from the jovial, joyous scenes around the ground. The pressure was extraordinary. Although some of the players enjoyed the occasion more than others, we had to win that game. It was a no-lose situation. We couldn't lose. We had to win. Steve Hartley emphasised to me. Clearly, the memories are still vivid, getting on 40 years later. It was like that in most derby games. He liked that. Clive helped KR to a famous victory over FC, winning 10-5. I was at the game, can't say I enjoyed the occasion one little bit as an FC fan. And then at the age of 38, Clive rejoined Hull FC in July 81 for a £2,000 transfer fee. At the age of 39, he was called into the FC team to replace Dane O'Hara in the 1988 Challenge Cup final replay at Elland Road, beating Widnes 18-9, which we all remember and we did enjoy. He did not play in the original game at Wembley. And if you look at the photo on the front cover of the book, there is Clive with the base of the trophy, minus his two false teeth, which, being drafted into the team at very short notice, had forgot to take with him that day. He said after the game, winning the World Cup and that medal with Rovers was great, but this was something special. I can now retire from the game a happy and contented man. He then had a short spell as head coach at Doncaster Rugby League Club. Went back to Hull FC to help on the coaching side with the A-team and the young players, and played his last game at 42 years of age. Sadly, he was diagnosed with liver cancer in the summer of 1985, aged only 42, and passed away in October 1985. And that brings me to a final reading from the book, which is on page 222. And it's actually, this part is actually entitled Legacy. Clive also left a legacy as a new generation of black British Rugby League players began to make their mark. The prolific winger Martin O'Fire and loose forward Ellery Hanley became crossover stars in the late 1980s and early 90s. Clive's own pioneering achievement was recognised when he was named as one of the 100 greatest black Britons in 2004. The saddest, what is of course, is what would have happened had he still been with us. Anyone who was anyone always seems to die young, said Alan McGlone, and he commented he would have been huge had he lived because of who he was and how he was. He would have been an ambassador like Bobby Moore or Trevor Brooking for soccer. I think he'd have been the first knighted. We'd never had one in rugby league. It was a tragedy that he died so young, just as an ambassador. Johnny Whiteley, who knows plenty about being an icon himself, told the author, he had that kind of intelligence that he could have been a formidable ambassador for his code of rugby league. He made a big mark on this city. The road shows that even the council level, he had made an impact with the naming of Clive Sullivan Way. Clive's mixture of resilience and amiable, humble nature, aligned with his generosity of time and spirit, make it seem very likely that he would have had an impact on the game in some way or another. I think of his smile, Sammy Lloyd reminisced about Clive. He had just a wonderful, charismatic smile. He was ever so friendly. I got to see that as a player and working with him. I worked with him for a considerable length of time, and you get to know someone very well. When you get to play with them, you get to know them even better. But in all moments, when the chips were down, in difficult moments, Clive would have a smile, a real cheeky smile. It was a real part of his personality. It was so modest, Rosalind said. He'd be amazed at what has happened and the esteem he's held in. The legacy Clive left has been matched by very few sportsmen or women across all disciplines, not just rugby league. He was a husband and a father, a pioneer in the social history of British sport, a supreme talent, but above all, he was a winner. He was a true professional, and he's very sadly missed. And that was the end of the quote. If you've enjoyed listening to this, then I wouldn't mind if you could donate just a few pounds to the Bridtown virtual game, which you'll find on the Bridtown Twitter site or Bridtown website. And if you didn't enjoy it, just delete it. So thanks, I'll catch up with you soon.